Ambassador Kate Morrison sat at her desk. In her office aboard the Earth ship. Mercury's dawn, the morning light from the nearby star came through the big window behind her chair. She looked at the glowing message that had just arrived from the Galactic Council. It was written in fancy letters that seemed to dance in the air above her desk. Message was an invitation to another peace summit. Kate had seen many of these before. Every year the different alien races would meet at a big space station to talk about keeping peace in the galaxy. Every year they would ask Earth to bring their military leaders and warships. Every year Earth would say no thank you. Kate smiled as she read the formal words. The aliens always wrote their invitations the same way. They would list all the powerful military commanders who would come. They would talk about the amazing warships that would be there. They would mention how important it was for every race to show their strength. This year's summit would be held at Harmony 7, a giant space station built just for meetings like this. The Sapirian Empire would bring Admiral Kavar and his biggest warships. The Silicon Collective would show off their newest fighting computers. Even the peaceful plant people called the Verdani would bring their living war creatures. Lieutenant Danny Brooks walked into Kate's office. He was young and had only been working with the diplomatic team for 6 months. Danny looked curious as he watched Kate read the invitation. Another summit invitation? Danny asked as he sat down in the chair across from Kate's desk. Yes, the same as always, Kate said, still smiling. They want us to bring our generals and admirals. They want to see our warships and weapons. Danny looked confused. Why don't we ever bring any military people? Every other race brings their armies. The Kronans bring those big scary warriors. The Altarians bring their robot soldiers. Don't the aliens think we're weak? Kate laughed softly. Oh, Danny, you have so much to learn about how these things really work. What do you mean? Danny asked. Kate turned her chair to look out the window at the stars. Tell me, Danny, what do you think makes a person truly dangerous? Danny thought for a moment. Someone with big muscles. Someone with lots of weapons. Maybe, Kate said, or maybe it's someone who never needs to show anyone how strong they are. Someone who is so sure of their power that they never have to prove it. Danny still looked confused, but he nodded anyway. Kate turned back to her desk and started typing a response to the Galactic Council. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as she wrote the same polite message Earth always sent. Earth was grateful for the invitation. Earth would send the right people to represent them. Earth looked forward to another successful peace summit far away on Earth in a big building called the Pentagon. General Lisa Hayes was reading the same invitation. She sat in her office surrounded by maps of the galaxy and pictures of different alien ships. Her uniform had many colorful ribbons that showed all the important things she had done in her long career. General Hayes was not alone. Admiral John Carter sat across from her desk. He had come from the Navy headquarters to discuss the summit invitation. Both of them had serious expressions on their faces. Same request as always, General Hayes said as she put down the glowing message. They want to see our military might. They want us to parade our ships and soldiers in front of everyone. Admiral Carter shook his head. Do they still not understand why we don't do that? Apparently not, General Hayes replied. Every year they ask. Every year we politely decline. Every year they probably think we're too weak or too scared to show what we have. If only they knew, Admiral Carter said with a small smile. General Hayes stood up and walked to the big window that looked out over the city. Remember the last time aliens got a real look at what human military can do? Admiral Carter's face became serious. The Proxima incident 3 years ago exactly. One small human patrol ship against 6 alien pirates. The pirates thought they had found easy prey. General Hayes turned back to Admiral Carter. How long did that fight last? 17 seconds, Admiral Carter said quietly. From first contact to complete surrender of all 6 pirate ships, and we never had to fire a single shot. General Hayes added, just showed them what our weapons could do if we wanted to use them. Both officers were quiet for a moment, remembering that day. Alien pirates had attacked what they thought was a helpless human transport ship. Instead, they found themselves facing technology they could not understand and weapons they could not fight against. The problem, Admiral Carter said, is that now we have to be even more careful. If the galaxy knew what we really have, what we can really do, everything would change. Fear instead of respect. General Hayes agreed. Better to let them think we're peaceful because we're weak than to let them know we're peaceful because we're strong. Back on the Mercury's Dawn, Kate Morrison was finishing her message to the Galactic Council. She had selected the team that would represent Earth at the summit. Dr. Alan Foster would come as their science expert. He was good at talking to aliens about new discoveries and inventions. Professor Nina Bell would come as their culture expert. She loved learning about how different alien races lived and thought. The third member of the team was the most important, even though the aliens would never know it. Commander Jake Phillips would come as their military liaison. The aliens would think he was just there to take notes and observe. They would have no idea what his real job was or what he was really capable of doing. Kate looked at Commander Phillips's file. On her computer screen, his official record showed a normal career as a staff officer and diplomat. It said nothing about his real training or his special skills. It did not mention the missions he had completed or the awards he had earned that no one was allowed to know about. Kate closed the file and sent her message to the Galactic Council. Earth would attend the summit. Earth would send appropriate representatives. Earth would continue to be the polite, peaceful race that everyone thought they knew. Danny Brooks was still sitting in his chair watching Kate work. I still don't understand, he said. Why is it better to let them think we're weak? Kate looked at the young man and smiled. Again, Danny, someday you'll understand that the most powerful thing you can do is never have to use your power at all. Harmony 7 was the biggest space station Kate Morrison had ever seen. It looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly, space with long arms reaching out in all directions. Thousands of lights blinked on its surface, and ships from across the galaxy were flying toward it like metal birds coming home to roost. The Mercury's Dawn moved carefully through the busy traffic around the station. Kate stood on the bridge watching dozens of alien ships that she had never seen before. Some looked like crystals, made of glass and light. Others seemed to be alive, breathing and moving like giant space creatures. A few were so strange that Kate could not even guess what they were made of. Commander Jake Phillips stood beside her, but he was not looking at the pretty ships. His eyes moved from one vessel to another, a pattern that Kate recognized. He was counting weapons, measuring ship sizes, and noting which ships stayed together. In groups, to anyone watching, he looked like a tourist seeing amazing sights for the first time. Kate knew better. Quite a show, Philip said quietly. Yes, they always like to impress each other, Kate replied. Dr. Alan Foster joined them at the big window. He was excited about meeting so many different alien species. Look at that Quarth ship, he said, pointing to a vessel that looked like it was made entirely of purple crystal. I heard they grow their ships instead of building them. Professor Nina Bell was taking pictures with her camera. The cultural diversity here is amazing, she said. Each ship design tells us so much about how these species think and live. Phillips nodded politely, but Kate noticed his eyes never stopped moving. He was still watching, still counting, still thinking like the soldier he really was. The Mercury's Dawn docked at one of the smaller ports on Harmony 7. Kate had requested a quiet arrival spot away from the main ceremonial docking bays where the big military ships were showing off. She preferred to keep Earth's presence low-key, just like always. As they walked through the station's corridors, Kate was amazed by what she saw. The hallways were wide enough for the Hugh Cronin warriors to walk beside the tiny, fairy-like beings from the Whisper worlds. The walls showed pictures and videos from 100 different planets. The air smelled like a mixture of flowers, metal, and something Kate could not identify. They passed groups of aliens talking in languages that sounded like music, grinding rocks or electronic beeps. Some aliens wore bright military uniforms covered with medals and ribbons. Others had weapons that glowed or hummed with energy. A few had body armor that looked like it could stop a missile. Impressive hardware, Phillips commented as they passed a group of Alaran soldiers in their robot suits. Do you think so? Kate asked. Phillips was quiet for a moment. It's all very shiny, he said carefully. Kate understood what he meant. The alien military equipment looked dangerous and advanced, but Phillips could probably spot weaknesses that the aliens themselves did not know about. They reached the main conference center where the opening ceremony would take place. The room was enormous, with seats arranged in circles around a central stage. Each section was designed for different types of alien bodies. Some seats were huge for the giant rock creatures called the stonemen. Others were tiny for the mouse-like beings from the cold worlds. Earth section was small and simple, with just 4 regular chairs. Kate noticed that some aliens looked at their modest seating area and whispered to each other. She could guess what they were saying. Admiral Keithvar from the Zaffiran Empire walked over to greet them. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and silver eyes. His uniform was covered with so many medals that Kate wondered how he could walk without falling over. Ambassador Morrison, Admiral Keithvar said with a bow that was probably meant to be polite but felt mocking. How wonderful to see Earth represented again by such academic minds, Admiral Kate replied with a smile. Thank you for the kind words. We're always happy to learn from the experiences of others. Admiral Keithvar looked at Phillips. And you are the military representative, Commander Phillips, Jake said with a simple nod. I'm here to observe and learn. Observe and learn, Admiral Keithvar repeated, his silver eyes showing amusement. How refreshing to meet such humble soldiers. After the Admiral walked away, Dr. Foster looked worried. He seemed to be making fun of us. Many of them do. Kate said calmly. They think Earth is weak because we don't bring big ships and powerful weapons to these meetings. Are we weak? Professor Bell asked. Phillips looked at her with an expression that was hard to read. That depends on how you define strength. The opening ceremony began with each species showing off their military power. The Cronins brought their biggest warriors onto the stage. These creatures looked like walking mountains made of muscle and anger. They demonstrated their fighting skills by breaking thick metal bars with their bare hands. Zephyrians showed videos of their space fleets. Hundreds of sleek warships moved in perfect formation, firing energy beams that could destroy entire moons. The audience made impressed sounds as explosions lit up the giant screens. The Silicon Collective presented their battle computers. These machines could think faster than any living brain and control thousands of weapons at the same time. They showed a simulation where their computers won a pretend war in just minutes. Even the peaceful Verdani brought out their weapons. These were creatures that looked like beautiful flowers but could eat through metal or release deadly poisons. The Verdani spokesman explained that they only used these creatures for defense, but everyone could see how dangerous they were. Each presentation was met with applause and respectful comments from the other delegates. The aliens seemed to enjoy comparing their weapons and arguing about whose military was strongest. When it was Earth's turn, Kate stood up calmly. Thank you for these impressive demonstrations, she said. Earth prefers to share our achievements in science and culture. Kate activated a holographic display that showed pictures of human cities, art, and music. She talked about medical discoveries that had saved millions of lives. She showed videos of beautiful parks and peaceful schools where human children learned about the galaxy. The alien delegates watched politely, but Kate could see them exchanging glances. Some shook their heads sadly, as if they felt sorry for humanity's weakness. Others whispered comments that were probably not very nice. Phillips watched the audience reactions carefully. His face showed nothing, but Kate could tell he was remembering every face and every comment. After the ceremony, as they walked back to their quarters, Dr. Foster seemed upset. They think we're pathetic, he said. They see our peaceful presentations and think we're too weak to fight. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, Phillips said quietly. What do you mean? Professor Bell asked. Phillips stopped walking and looked around to make sure no one was listening. In my experience, the most dangerous opponents are the ones who don't need to prove how dangerous they are. Kate smiled at her team. Commander Phillips makes a good point. Sometimes it's better to be underestimated. That night, Phillips stood alone on one of the station's observation decks. He looked out at all the alien warships docked around Harmony 7. His trained eyes cataloged every weapon system, every shield generator, every engine type. He pulled out a small device that looked like a normal communication pad. His fingers moved across it quickly, entering codes and data that would mean nothing to most people. The information he was recording would be very interesting to certain people back on Earth. As he worked, Phillips allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had put on quite a show today. They had demonstrated their military might and their advanced weapons. They had made it very clear that they saw humanity as weak and harmless, if only they knew what was really watching them from the darkness between the stars. The third day of the peace summit started quietly, but Kate Morrison could feel tension. The air she had been to enough diplomatic meetings to know when trouble was coming, the way certain aliens avoided looking at each other, the whispered conversations that stopped when others walked by, the nervous energy that seemed to fill every room. The problem started during the morning session about trade routes in the Kepler sector. This was supposed to be a simple discussion about shipping lanes and cargo schedules. Instead, it became a heated argument between two powerful alien races. War Chief Gak of the Kronan Empire stood up from his massive chair. He was 8 feet tall and looked like he was made of living rock and muscle. His voice sounded like grinding stones when he spoke. The Kepler trade routes belong to Cone in space, he growled. We have protected these lanes for 50 years. We will not allow Altarian thieves to steal what is ours. Fleet Commander Zixara from the Altarian Republic rose to answer. She was much smaller than the Kronan, but her robot body gleamed with built-in weapons. Her electronic voice was cold and precise. The Kronan speak of protection, but they mean taxation without representation. Alaran merchants paid tribute for routes they helped discover. This arrangement is no longer acceptable. Kate watched the exchange with growing worry. She had seen diplomatic arguments before, but this felt different. Both aliens were speaking with the kind of anger that led to real fighting. Commander Phillips sat beside her, looking calm and relaxed. But Kate noticed that his hand had moved to rest on a small device attached to his belt. To anyone watching, it looked like he was just getting comfortable. Kate knew better. Perhaps we could discuss alternative solutions, suggested Ambassador Velter from the peaceful Whisper Worlds. Her tiny voice was hard to hear over the growing noise in the room. Wararchief Gatch turned his massive head toward the small alien. This is not a matter for discussion. This is about honor and territory. The Altarians have insulted Kronan warriors. There is only one way to settle such insults. Fleet Commander Zara's robot eyes glowed brighter. If the Kronans wish to test their primitive strength against Altarian technology, we accept the challenge. The room went quiet. Kate felt her stomach drop. She knew what was coming next. By the ancient galactic accords, War Chief Gok announced in a voice that echoed through the chamber, I challenge the Altarian Republic to trial by combat. Let our warriors and our ships decide who is worthy of the Kepler routes. Fleet Commander Zixar's mechanical voice rang out clearly. The Altarian Republic accepts this challenge. We will show the galaxy the superiority of logic over brute force. The other alien delegates began talking excitedly. Some seemed pleased that they would get to watch a real battle. Others looked worried about what might happen. A few started placing bets on which side would win. Kate turned to Phillips. This is bad, she whispered. Phillips nodded slightly. His hand was still resting on the device at his belt. Very bad, he agreed quietly. Dr. Foster and Professor Bell looked confused and frightened. They had never seen anything like this at a diplomatic meeting. Can they really fight here? Dr. Foster asked. The Galactic Accords allow it. Kate explained. It's an old law from thousands of years ago. If two sides can agree on something important, they can settle it through combat. But that's barbaric, Professor Bell said. Many alien cultures still believe. That strength proves who is right, Kate replied. Unfortunately, they're about to demonstrate that belief. The preparations for combat began. Immediately, both sides started moving their warships into position around Harmony 7. The Kronan vessels were huge and heavily armored, looking like flying fortresses made of black metal. The Altarian ships were smaller but faster, covered with weapon systems that glowed with blue energy. The space around the station filled with military craft. As both fleets prepared for battle, weapon systems came online. Shield generators began humming with power, targeting computers locked onto enemy ships. Commander Phillips excused himself from the observation area. I need some fresh air, he told Kate. This confined space is making me nervous. Kate nodded, understanding what he really meant. Phillips walked calmly toward one of the station's outer observation decks, away from the crowds of excited aliens. Once he was alone, Phillips pulled out his small communication device. His fingers moved quickly across its surface, entering codes that very few people in the galaxy would recognize. The device sent an encrypted message that traveled faster than light toward a specific location in space. The message was short and simple. Overwatch protocol activated. Combat situation developing. Prepare for possible intervention. Far away, invisible to all the sensors on Harmony 7, something received that message and began to respond. Back in the observation area, Kate watched the alien fleets take their positions. The Kronan ships formed a solid wall of armor and guns. The Altarian vessels spread out in a complex pattern, ready to attack from multiple directions at once. This is going to be spectacular, said Admiral Kethar from the Zephyrian Empire. He sounded excited about the coming battle. Real warriors settling their differences the proper way. The destruction will be magnificent, agreed. Prime Logic Unit 7 from the Silicon Collective. Both sides have brought impressive firepower. Kate felt sick listening to the aliens talk about the coming fight like it was entertainment. People were about to die, and these beings were treating it like a sporting event. The combat trial officially began when both fleets fired signal flares into space. According to the ancient rules, they now had permission to fight until one side surrendered or was destroyed. The Kronan ships charged forward like angry bulls, their massive guns firing beams of red energy. The Altarian vessels danced around them like metal butterflies, shooting streams of blue plasma from every angle. Space lit up with explosions and weapon fire. The aliens, watching from Harmony 7, cheered and made comments about the beautiful destruction. Some continued placing bets on which side would win. Kate watched in horror as ships on both sides took damage. A Kronan cruiser lost its front section to Alarian missiles. An Altarian destroyer spun out of control after Kronan energy beams tore through its engines. The battle was brutal and chaotic. Both sides fought with desperate fury, using weapons that could destroy entire cities. The space around Harmony 7 became a deadly light show of explosions and energy beams. Commander Phillips returned to the observation deck just as the situation became truly dangerous. A damaged Kronan heavy destroyer, its engines dead and its hull cracked open, began spinning toward The station, the massive ship, was out of control, pulled by Harmony 7's gravity. Its trajectory would bring it straight into the station's main section. Thousands of aliens would die in the collision. The alien delegates finally realized they were in danger. Panic began to spread through the observation areas. Some started running toward the escape pods, others stood frozen in shock. Phillips looked at the approaching destroyer and made rapid calculations in his head. The ship was too big and moving too fast for the station's tractor beams to stop. The impact would happen in less than 2 minutes. He pulled out his communication device and spoke one word into it. Overwatch. What happened next would change everything the galaxy thought they knew about humanity. 12 seconds later, the impossible occurred. Section of empty space suddenly shimmered and revealed something that should not have been there. A sleek, predatory ship appeared between the spinning destroyer and Harmony 7. It had been invisible, hiding in plain sight. The ship was clearly human in design, but unlike anything the aliens had ever seen before. It was dark and angular, covered with weapon systems that didn't match any known technology. Energy fields around its hull bent light in strange ways. The out-of-control Cronin destroyer, which had been spinning helplessly toward the station, simply stopped, not slowed down or pushed aside, but stopped completely, as if caught by an invisible giant hand. The aliens watching from Harmony 7 stared in shock and disbelief. Their sensors couldn't explain what they were seeing. The human ship was using technology that shouldn't exist, but that was only the beginning. As the aliens watched in amazement, more sections of empty space began to shimmer and reveal hidden ships. One by one, 17 more human vessels appeared around Harmony 7. They had been there all along, invisible and watching, waiting for something exactly like this to happen. The silence in the observation deck was complete. Every alien delegate stared through the windows at something that should have been impossible. 18 human warships floated in space around Harmony 7, sleek and deadly looking. They had appeared from nowhere, as if they had been invisible ghosts watching the entire time. The damaged Cronin destroyer that had been spinning toward the station hung motionless in space, held by some kind of energy field that none of the alien sensors could identify. The massive warship looked like a toy in the grip of an invisible giant hand. Kate Morrison felt her heart beating fast as she watched the other delegates. Their faces showed shock, confusion, and growing fear. These were some of the most powerful military leaders in the galaxy, and they looked like children who had just discovered monsters under their beds. Admiral Keith Var from the Zephyrian Empire was the first to speak. His voice was barely a whisper. How long have they been there? Commander Phillips walked calmly to the center of the observation area. Gone was the quiet, polite military liaison who had spent 3 days taking notes and asking simple questions. The man who stood before them now carried himself like someone who was used to making life and death decisions. Phillips reached up and removed a small pin from his uniform collar. Underneath was a different insignia that none of the aliens recognized. It showed a silver eagle holding lightning bolts in its claws, surrounded by stars. "My name is Colonel Jake Phillips," he said, in a voice that filled the room with authority. "Terran Defense Force Special Operations Command. I apologize for the Deception, but it was necessary for operational security. Dr. Foster and Professor Yaubel stared at their colleague in amazement. The man they had worked with for 3 days was nothing like the person standing before them now. This was clearly a soldier, and a very dangerous one. You've been lying to us, Fleet Commander Zix said. Her mechanical voice carried anger and confusion. We've been protecting you, Phillips replied calmly. Every delegate at this summit, every ship in this system, every person on this station has been under constant surveillance and protection since before the conference began. The main display screen in the observation area came to life. A woman in a crisp military uniform appeared on the screen. She had short brown hair and calm brown eyes that seemed to see everything. Behind her was the bridge of a warship that looked nothing like any vessel the aliens had ever seen. This is Admiral Sarah Kim, commanding the Terran vessel. Vigilant, the woman said. Her voice was polite but carried unmistakable authority. I'm speaking to all ships in this system. Combat operations will cease immediately. Any vessel requiring assistance should prepare to receive aid from human forces. War Chief Gax, massive stone face twisted with anger. You have no authority here, human. This is a legal combat trial under galactic law. Admiral Kim's expression did not change. Chief Gak, your heavy destroyer is currently disabled and drifting toward a space station containing thousands of innocent beings. Our intervention was necessary to prevent a mass casualty event. All combat operations in the system are now suspended pending resolution of the crisis. You cannot order us to stop fighting. Fleet Commander Zara protested. You have no legal standing in this matter. Commander Admiral Kim replied. I suggest you check your weapon systems. There was a moment of confused silence. Then both Kronan and Ilarian commanders began receiving frantic reports from their ships. Their weapons had stopped working, not damaged or destroyed, but simply turned off as if someone had flipped a switch. Our guns are offline, a Kronan captain reported over the communication system. All weapon systems are non-responsive. Same here, an Altarian officer confirmed. All offensive systems have been disabled. We cannot target or fire any weapons. The way alien delegates in the observation area looked at each other in growing panic. How could the humans disable weapon systems they had never seen before? How was this possible? Phillips walked to the window and looked out at the human ship surrounding the station. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings, he said, I think it's time you understood what you're really dealing with. He activated a small device in his hand, and suddenly the display screens around the room showed detailed technical readouts. The aliens saw their own ships as the humans saw them. Every weapon system mapped, every weakness identified, every tactical capability analyzed. For the past 72 hours, our ships have been conducting detailed scans of every vessel at this summit. Phillips explained. We know the specifications of every weapon, the capacity of every shield generator, the performance limits of every engine. We have developed countermeasures for every system. Present. Prime Logic Unit 7 from the Silicon Collective spoke in its electronic voice. This level of analysis should take weeks with our most advanced computers. How did you accomplish it so quickly? Phillips smiled. For the first time since revealing his True identity. Unit 7. Your computers are impressive by galactic standards. By our standards, they're about 15 years behind our basic military hardware. The room erupted in shocked voices as aliens began talking over each other. Some demanded explanations, others asked how long humans had possessed such technology. A few started making worried calls to their home governments. Kate Morrison stepped forward to address the crowd. Her voice was calm and diplomatic, but everyone could hear the steel underneath her words. Distinguished delegates, she said, I think there has been a misunderstanding about Earth's approach to galactic diplomacy. You have assumed that our preference for peaceful solutions indicated weakness. In reality, it indicates the opposite. She gestured toward the display screens that still showed detailed analyses of alien military hardware. Every time we send diplomats to galactic conferences, they are protected by military assets that you cannot detect. Every peace summit, every trade negotiation, every first contact scenario has been backed by invisible force protection. Dr. Foster finally found his voice. Jake, I mean Colonel Phillips. How long have you been in the military? 16 years, Phillips replied. The last 8 in special operations. I've been to 12 diplomatic conferences like this. One each time I was tasked with threat assessment and protection of our diplomatic personnel. And each time you had ships watching us. Professor Bell asked. Each time we had overwhelming force protection that none of you detected, Phillips confirmed. Today is the first time we've had to reveal our presence. Admiral Kim's voice came from the communication system. Again, all ships in the combat area. This is Admiral Kim. We are deploying medical and engineering assistance to damaged vessels. Any crew requiring evacuation will be transported to Harmony 7 for treatment. Through the windows, the aliens could see human ships moving toward the damaged Kronan and Ilarian vessels, small craft launched from the human warships, carrying medical teams and repair equipment. You're helping them? War Chief Goth asked, confusion replacing anger in his voice. Of course, Philip said, despite what you might think about humans, we don't enjoy watching people die unnecessarily. Those crews were fighting according to their cultural laws. We have no quarrel with them personally. Fleet Commander's Ixara's mechanical head turned toward Phillips. If your ships have been here all along, watching us, analyzing our capabilities, what does this mean for galactic security? Phillips was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. It means that Earth takes the protection of our people very seriously. It means that we prepare for every possible scenario. And it means that we prefer never having to demonstrate our capabilities. Admiral Keithar's silver eyes were wide with something that might have been fear. How many other human ships are there? How much of your military have we never seen? Admiral Kate Morrison said with a diplomatic smile. I think that's probably a conversation for another time. Right now, we should focus on making sure everyone gets home safely. The alien delegates continued staring out at the human ships that surrounded them. These vessels moved with perfect precision, their crews working to save the same aliens who had been fighting moments before. The technology they displayed was beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Colonel Phillips opened his communication device again. This is Overwatch Control to all Terran vessels. Mission status: All combat. Vessels secured, came the reply. Medical. Teams deployed. No casualties reported. Situation contained. Understood. Maintain protective protocols until further notice. As the aliens watched, human medical teams save Cronin and Altarian lives. Many of them began to understand something important about their human neighbors. Earth's desire for peace was not born from weakness or fear. It came from strength so complete that they never needed to prove it. The galaxy was about to learn what it really meant when humans said they preferred diplomatic solutions. 2 hours after the human ships had revealed themselves, the rescue operations were complete. Every damaged alien vessel had been repaired or evacuated. No lives had been lost despite the fierce battle that had nearly destroyed Harmony 7 station. The alien delegates gathered in the main conference room to hear what Ambassador Kate Morrison had to say. Kate stood at the center of the room, looking calm and composed despite everything that had happened around her. Sat representatives from dozens of alien races, many still trying to understand what they had witnessed. The mood in the room was very different from 3 days ago, when the summit had begun. Colonel Phillips stood near the back of the room, no longer pretending to be a simple observer. His true military bearing was obvious now, and several alien delegates kept glancing nervously in his direction. Dr. Foster and Professor Bell sat in the front row, still amazed by everything they had learned about their colleague. Honored delegates, Kate began, her voice carrying clearly through the room. I believe we owe you an explanation for today's events. More importantly, we owe you an explanation for why Earth conducts diplomacy the way we do. Admiral Cathvar from the Zephyrian Empire raised his hand. Ambassador Morrison, how long has Earth possessed these military capabilities? How long have you been deceiving the galactic community? Kate smiled, but there was no humor in it. Admiral, we have never deceived anyone. We have simply never felt the need to discuss our military preparations. When Earth joined the galactic community 50 years ago, we made a decision about how to conduct ourselves. She activated a holographic display that showed images of human history, pictures of ancient battles, modern wars, and the destruction that conflict had brought to Earth over thousands of years. Humans have been fighting wars for our entire recorded history. Kate continued, we have perfected the art of destroying each other in ways that would horrify most species. We learned very early that the strongest military force is often the one that never has to fight. War Chief GTH's massive stone face showed confusion, but strength must be demonstrated. How can others respect you if they do not fear your power? Chief G. Kate replied, let me ask you something right now. At this moment, do you respect human power? The giant warrior was quiet for a long moment. Yes, he admitted. After what I have seen today, I respect human power very much. And yet, until 2 hours ago, you had no idea we possessed any significant military force. Kate pointed out, our strength commanded your respect the moment you realized it existed. We never had to threaten you or attack your ships to earn that respect. Fleet Commander Zixara's mechanical voice cut through the room. But why hide your capabilities? Why allow us to think you were weak? Colonel Phillips stepped forward to answer this question. Commander, in human military doctrine, the greatest Tactical advantage is being underestimated by your opponents. When people think you're weak, they don't prepare defenses against you. They don't build weapons specifically to counter yours. They don't form alliances to contain your power. He gestured toward the windows where the human ships could still be seen patrolling around the station. Every race in this room has spent the last 50 years developing weapons to fight each other. None of you have spent any resources preparing to fight humans because you didn't think we were a threat. Prime Logic Unit 7 from the Silicon Collective processed this information quickly. This suggests that human military technology has advanced without any counteracting development from potential enemies. You have maintained absolute superiority by remaining invisible. Exactly. Philips confirmed. While the galaxy has been locked in arms races with each other, we have been free to develop our capabilities without interference or competition. Dr. Foster raised his hand tentatively. Colonel, when you said our technology is 15 years ahead of galactic standards, is that really true? Phillips looked uncomfortable for a moment. Doctor, the systems we revealed today represent our older, more basic military technology. We use these for routine protection of diplomatic missions and civilian vessels. The room fell silent as the implications of this statement sank in. If what they had seen was basic technology, what were human military forces really capable of? Ambassador from the Whisper World spoke in her tiny voice. Ambassador Morrison, what happens now? How does this change our relationships with Earth? Kate's expression softened. Ambassador Velter, nothing fundamental needs to change. Earth still wants the same things we have always wanted from the galactic community. We want peaceful trade, scientific cooperation, and cultural exchange. We want to explore the galaxy together and learn from each other. But now we know you could destroy us all if you wanted to, said a delegate from the Spiral Coalition. We have always had that capability, Kate replied gently. The only thing that has changed is your awareness of it. We have never used our military power to threaten or harm peaceful beings. We never will. Admiral Kim's voice came through the communication system from her ship. All delegates, this is Admiral Kim. Our medical teams report that all injured personnel from today's incident have been successfully treated. All damaged vessels are now spaceworthy. We are pleased that this situation ended without loss of life. War Chief Gatch stood up from his massive chair. Admiral Kim, I must ask, why did your people save Kronan warriors? We were the ones causing the problem that nearly destroyed the station. Admiral Kim and LT Unk and GT's voice was warm when she replied, Chief Gauss, you were following the legal customs of your people. The combat trial was conducted according to galactic law. When an accident threatened innocent lives, we intervened to protect everyone, including your warriors. Human military doctrine requires us to preserve life whenever possible. The Kronan warrior chief was quiet for a moment. This is unexpected. In Kronan culture, enemies do not help each other. Chief Kate said, humans do not consider other galactic races to be enemies. We consider you to be neighbors who sometimes disagree with each other. There is a big difference. The conference room buzzed with quiet conversations as delegates discussed what they had learned. Many seemed to be reconsidering their entire understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. Colonel Phillips activated his communication device, all Terran. Vessels prepare to resume stealth. Protocols, Overwatch mission complete. Through the windows, the aliens watched as the human ships began to disappear. Again, one by one, they faded from view until only empty space remained. The advanced stealth technology that had hidden them for 3 days was working. Again, Kate addressed the room one final time. Distinguished delegates, Earth will continue to send diplomats, scientists, and cultural representatives to galactic conferences. We will continue to prefer peaceful solutions to every problem, and we will continue to protect our people and our friends using whatever means are necessary. She paused and looked around the room at all the alien faces. The only difference is that now you understand why we are so confident in our peaceful approach. We hope this knowledge will make future negotiations more productive for everyone. Admiral Keth raised his hand again. Ambassador, will Earth ever reveal more about your military capabilities? Kate smiled. Admiral, we sincerely hope that will never be necessary. Today's demonstration was more than we ever wanted to show. We much prefer discussing art, science, and trade agreements. As the summit officially ended, delegates began preparing to return to their home worlds. The conversations they would have with their governments would be very different from what anyone had expected when the conference began. Dr. Foster approached Colonel Phillips as they prepared to leave. Jake, Colonel, I still can't believe you're really Special Forces. Phillips smiled at the scientist. Doctor, my job was to make sure you could do your job safely. Everything else was just cover story. Professor Bell joined them. Will we work together again? I hope so, Phillips said, but next time maybe we can just focus on the science and culture. Today was a bit more exciting than I prefer. As the human delegation prepared to board the Mercury's Dawn, Kate Morrison filed her final report to Earth Command. She noted that the galaxy now had a proper understanding of human diplomatic philosophy. She recommended continuing the policy of peaceful engagement backed by invisible military protection. Colonel Phillips added his own report, confirming that human stealth and defensive systems had performed perfectly. He suggested that Earth could continue operating with confidence in their protection protocols. 6 months later, the Galactic Council passed new regulations called the Harmony Accords. These rules established better protocols for military conduct at diplomatic gatherings. They included special provisions for observer status protection, which was a polite way of acknowledging that some species might have protective forces present that didn't need to be announced. Earth continued sending diplomats, scientists, and cultural representatives to galaxy-wide meetings. They also continued clear's throat, providing invisible protection for these missions. The difference was that when Ambassador Morrison politely declined to demonstrate human military power, everyone now understood she was being courteous, not weak. The galaxy had learned that the most dangerous military forces are often the ones you never see.